Hello, welcome everybody. We're delighted to have you here for the next session, which we're going to be looking at women in publishing, glass ceilings and paper walls. Around the world, I think women have long been at the heart of our industry, shaping stories, preserving cultural memory and amplifying diverse voices. Yet too often, their career paths in our industry is limited by systematic barriers, unequal opportunities, and workplaces that don't necessarily guarantee safety or dignity. Today, as we reflect on the progress made since the Beijing Declaration, a resolution adopted in 1995 and has set the agenda for women's empowerment, we are going to explore some of the pushbacks on women's rights. We'll hear from leaders in our sector. We have some amazing women on stage with me right now. And we're also going to explore some solutions, some practical ideas of where we see progress developing. But maybe to set the stage, I'm going to ask Eliza, because it has indeed been 30 years after the Beijing Declaration was signed. It set the global agenda for gender equality. Where are we in 2025, and what are the key challenges?
Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. It is my great pleasure to be here in this panel and provide a little bit of reflection from UN Women's perspective. I want to start my reflection by sharing, globally, we have set standards and frameworks of what we aim to achieve as society. In the case of gender equality, we have the Beijing Platform for Action, and Beijing Declaration that happened 30 years ago, with 12 areas of concern where we wanted to take women to another level in 12 areas of concern. At the same time, we have the whole SDG agenda, the Sustainable Development Agenda, with one goal on gender equality and gender mainstream in all areas of development, with ending date of 2030. So what are we seeing? That unfortunately, after 30 years, we are not there. We have made progress in certain areas, in education, in leadership, economic participation of women, but we're still not there. In basically all areas. No country in the world has achieved gender equality, and at the pace we're going, is also unlikely we will achieve SDG 5 by 2030. And I bring this not to bring a negative view, but it's just a reflection of the challenges we have. Also, another important reflection is to understand that progress to gender equality is not linear and even. We see, especially in this time, we're seeing a lot of regression. We're talking globally and regional and a national level. What we understand is the gender backlash, that we see some coming back to some traditional values, regression in certain countries, some indicators. We see the repeal of certain laws that are going towards the progress on gender equality or other areas, violence against women, or even sexual and reproductive rights. We see budget cuts at national level. And we also see a shrinking in civil society space. So the environment, there's a lot of challenges, but what is also important is that out there in the world, there's now a lot of also efforts, what we call is to push forward the gender backlash. So really a call for action to more than ever promote women's rights, gender equality, to get organized, to commit. And that call happens at the level of governments, at the level of civil society, and the level of partnerships. And that is why we're here discussing in the world of publishing. And I wanted to raise that as we achieve the 30 years of the Beijing Platform for Action, we're now calling for a Beijing 30 action agenda that covers 6 areas. And some areas have to do with digital participation of girls, freedom from violence, freedom from poverty, women, peace and security, and climate justice. But I want to put the attention on number 4, that is about promoting the full and equal participation of women in power in all areas of public life. So we're not talking only about the participation of women in politics. We're talking about the full participation of women in all areas of life and leading, including in the publishing world. So women as publishers, women as writers, and I think that is an important frame for the discussion we are going to have. As we talk about opportunities, we see with a lot of optimism the fact that 50% of women now share the space for, represent the share of women published in this world. So it's incredible, no? Now 50% of women are published. And I think we should all strive for this full participation of women in all areas. As I said before, publishers, writers. There are interesting initiatives like the Women Empowerment Principles. We're welcoming, we just signed an MOU with IPA so that we can promote more reflection and active participation of women, including promotion in the safe place, women in the workplace, what we aspire at the end is societies where women and men are participating fully and women can represent their own voice with authenticity and participate in equal terms. So this is the world we are in. There are tensions, but there are also possibilities. Thank you.
And so I think that's an excellent context to start the conversation. We see progress, but we see backlash. We see progress, but we also have barriers. Kwanza, female president of the International Publishers Association. We actually have the first president of the Publishers Association who was female, Anna Maria, in the front audience. But Kwanza, maybe you want to reflect on, from your own personal journey perhaps, how you're seeing the systematic barriers and what you're seeing as opportunities for females in publishing.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for the question. And I want to welcome all the female publishers, leaders joining us during this panel. And I hope that this conversation will be really inspiring for the audience. As Rachel said, I'm representing International Publishers Association, which is a 130 years old organization. And during these 130 years, I'm the only fourth female president of this organization, and I think that this number talks about something really, really important about what we have to think about and also see what we can change. I had wonderful female predecessors, and as Rachel said, Ana Maria Cabanelos was the first one. She's from Argentina, and she was the first female president of our association. Then we had Bodur Al-Qasimi. She's not, unfortunately, she's not in Frankfurt this time, but really inspiring person who started very important initiative, which is a Publish Her, and there is a special stage, and I'm really honored that I will be able to talk at that stage tomorrow, I think. And Bodur started really wonderful job with this project to empower female leaders and female publishers. And then we had Karini Panza, who is my predecessor, and I was her vice president. And you know, that was really important because if we are talking about gender equality and about empowering women, the most important for me personally is that if someone achieves to become a real female leader, it's not only a success, but it's a responsibility. And this responsibility means that we have to think about others and we have to support others as well on this quite difficult path, because being a woman, then trying to become like, break all the borders and become a leader is not easy, and it's really difficult in some specific areas, we should say that. So I feel this is responsibility, and I'm really happy and honored that we managed today to sign an MOU with UN Women Regional Office, Europe and Central Asia, and I'm really happy that you are here with us. This is a start, I think, for IPA of something really important because we will try, after this MOU is signed already, we will try to do our best to, first of all, promote the women's empowerment principles which UN Women have created, and it's there, it exists, so we have now to work on that and to bring those messages to as many publishers in the world as possible. And IPA has members from 84 countries and 105 member associations, so we are represented in all continents. And I guess that this network, which we have as a global organization, it's important that we use this network and try our best, because there are so many female talents in the publishing industry, so many, you see them all around, but when it goes to the leadership, somehow it happens that leaders are mostly men. So there are the questions why it's happening. For example, we still struggle in IPA, in the executive committee. We are trying to have the balance, like female publishers and male publishers represented there, but still we could not achieve. But there are some other good examples that we have, for example, committee chairs, females, but still a lot of work is to be done. And as IPA, we feel that, of course, we need to do our best to give the example to our members. So IPA should be the example for others. So this is what we are trying to start together, and I really hope that it will have very, very good results in very short time. I hope so, but we will see.
Great. It sounds like the foundations are being laid in order to make sure that we have a structural way of moving forward for the IPA to lead the way in the publishing industry and to think about women's empowerment. And Kwanzaa mentioned I had some female talent. And of course, it's great to think of this as a nice to have, but there's a business case. We know that businesses are more successful if they're more diverse. Research has shown that female leadership is particularly successful. And so I'm going to turn it over because I have a CEO here, Marta, who is on the senior board, who is on an executive board. Can you tell me the business case for women when you're looking around the boardroom? What exactly are you seeing and how are you thinking about this?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this session. And after all the progress that have been made, we are not already there. But these kind of conversations, I think, are essential to move forward. From my perspective, promoting women's leadership is not a matter of justice. It's a strategic advantage. It gives us a real competitive advantage for the business, and also for publishing, strengthens our position. For me, having diverse teams is something that you attract talent. First of all, diverse teams are more agile. They work better at anticipating risk and opportunities and to find the real opportunities for the business. But also, it's a reputational and talent magnet to have committed professionals. And in our case, in Grupo Anaya, we are 6 women of 11, in a board of 11 members, but also across the Ashet group, we are 57% of women in top management position. But it's not a policy, it's a principle, because it also defines the way that we publish, we educate. There is a purpose, and our responsibility goes beyond the business. But for me, as I said, it's a competitive advantage having these diverse teams. And at the end, we have to lead by example, because we influence other people also because of lead action, and we inspire other women that everything is possible. But the most important thing is that we have to define what leadership means. I think that, that if women are not part of this perspective, we are limiting the opportunities and we are limiting the voices. So in our case, it has been very easier, and I think the diverse teams make our company stronger.
Perfect. And I think when we were chatting earlier, sometimes we forget. I think, we might look up and think, oh, women have done this before. There have been trailblazers. But Barbara, when we were chatting, I think you had the similar reflection when you were thinking about getting into publishing, that, women had done this and had been there and had taken these leadership roles. But that wasn't necessarily the case. How do you view women's career growth and the publishing industry?
Well, overall, I think that in publishing, we're actually quite privileged. We're talking about this industry, and we're talking about an industry that has quite a tradition of female leadership as well. Of course, it could be better. It can always be better, and we're making it better. We're right on the way. So I was used to the image of a publisher being male, like my father, and the team being female, me being one of them. And, that was a family tradition, but my father started it. It's not like grandfather and so forth. But, I then decided that my mic's off. I then decided that I want to become a publisher myself, and I set up my own company. And I had quite a few people. And there's one important thing that I want to state. I had quite a few people who really wanted the best for me. They really wanted me to succeed, to lead a happy life, to be fulfilled. And when I set up my own business, the youngest of our 3 kids was 4 years old. So my father beforehand decided that I couldn't take on his company because a mother of 3 couldn't run a publishing company. So I had to set up my own, and we're now 20 years later, and I'm still going strong, and I'm happy to report that my father is too, and at 93, he's sort of reflecting on his decision way back when. But as I said, there's another point, and it's the expectations of other people as well. And there's my mother, for example, like people close to you, they often tell you, and they want your best. They tell you, don't do it, it's too much work. Don't do it, it's too hard. Don't do it, you will be disappointed. Don't do it. They're not helicopter parents, my parents, and they wanted my best. But obviously they didn't quite know me. And, I'm happy to report that choosing business as my life path and becoming a role model, hopefully, for other female entrepreneurs has given my life quite something, that being just a wife, mother, housekeeper, and ordinary employee would have never given me. So here we are.
So I think that speaks to the need to have trailblazers, people that we're looking and that are supportive, and that instead of saying, don't do it, maybe say, hey, this could be a path for you. And I do think, reflecting on the impact women can have and how it can actually enhance our publishing sector, I have to look to Kea. And of course, we're sitting here, I'm based out in Amsterdam, Barbara is in Germany, Marta, you're in Spain, and we also have Georgia here, and Istanbul, of course. There's different locations, there's different ways, but I think you've definitely seen how women can leave their mark on the industry and do it in different ways. Maybe you want to reflect on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hello from Istanbul, and it's a great pleasure to be here with you, with all these wonderful women. I'm very excited, I'm very happy, and I hope this will lead to a greater, bigger conversation later. So, yes, in Istanbul, in Turkey, Istanbul is the heart of publishing, as you would guess. And when I look at publishing, it's always women, translators, illustrators, creative part. Also, in printing women are even very active, and book clubbers, influencers, TikTokers, YouTubers, it's always women. It's always women. But when you look at the leadership part, we're very underrepresented, as you would guess. I'm in Turkish Publishers Association, and this is my third term. In our history of 40 years, there was only this one president and 2 secretary generals that were women. So there are things that we should be changing for sure. And yeah, in my opinion, the mark, the stamp we should be leaving in publishing as a woman, it's not only publishing, but also how we publish as a woman. I've been an editor-in-chief for 15, 16 years now in April Publishing House, and the books I chose were always women voices from all around the world. I have this wonderful writer from Indonesia, Shubhangi Shwarup from India, and that's how I think we should be putting our stamp on publishing, like hearing each other's stories, looking for each other's stories, women voices from all around the world, and I think we should be supporting, especially in that sense. And women's stories are kind of local in their sense, but also very universal. And the only way to understand each other's stories and how things are going in our countries is to publish them into our own languages. The other thing, the gender balance, of course we talk about that all the time, and we say gender balance is not something that you can forget, but it should be in all creative industries, and especially in publishing. I took this note, like gender balance is definitely a must in work, especially if you are in publishing, because diversity isn't just an ethical value, it's a creative and economical necessity. So in Turkish Publishers Association, like in 2021, like acknowledging global and local incidents of harassment, abuse, and inequalities, we made this one very important report called the Publishing Principles Document. And it has 12 very important messages. And before we accept any kind of publishing house to be a part of Publishers Association, we say, please read this and then become a part of our association. So I think these kind of things change the game a lot, and we are trying to find our own circles and take women interns a lot in our publishing houses, and we encourage them to be a publisher. Publisher is very important for us too. We watch their videos and their social media. And of course, UN Women's job is very, very important for us. Like even the present you gave us, the rewriting of fairy tales, it's wonderful. We need these kind of stories to reach our audience. In Turkish, we have this, I have my Turkish friends, my publisher and writer friends, we have this saying, kadın kadının yurdudur, which means a woman is another woman's country, home. So we need our homes, and that's how we will flourish publishing even better, in my opinion. Thank you.
And I think it's such an interesting point. I mean, we're really at a crossroads in our societies right now. We've got people reading less. We've got people not really investigating information anymore. And I wondered what your reflections are as a panel here on the role women should be playing here in terms of promoting reading, in terms of potentially thinking about, you know, women are more likely to develop book clubs, for example, and community and inclusive spaces. I wondered if anybody on the panel would have some thoughts on that. I'm looking at you. Yes.
Well, I work very close with the independent bookstores and book clubbers, so maybe I may share a few ideas. Yes, in Turkey, the independent bookstores are mostly owned by women, which is very interesting and beautiful. And when you compare it with the chain bookstores, you see the difference. They always invite women writers, do book signings, do panels, and okay, the first 10 minutes is always about the book, but the rest is always about gender equality, feminism, how we can change our fate, what can we do to support each other. So So I think they are very important to spread the culture of reading and also to spread the idea of women in publishing. That's why we do these panels in independent bookstores in my country, in Istanbul, in Ankara, in different cities. And we share women voices and our ideas about women in publishing. And they're doing very well. The other thing, the editors always talk to independent bookstores and YouTubers, booktubers in Turkey, and we kind of choose some books according to that. For example, in April Publishing House, we will be publishing this book called Men Who Hate Women by Laura Bates, an American writer, and it's all about the incels and how they became this very traumatic, weird people, and everybody was saying, oh, okay, they're not that dangerous. You don't have to take them that serious. No, they're very dangerous. This toxic masculinity and these incels, like writing manifestos and killing women, torturing women, that's a big issue. And in Turkey, it's still not very much talked. And how I found this book? By a YouTuber who was living in the States, a Turkish one, said, Nazlı, you should definitely be looking at this book and publishing it. So yeah, I think these women in these other sectors, in these other circles, changed the whole game and even shape the culture of reading, yes, and also the culture of publishing for us. Yeah.
And Eliza, I wonder if you have some reflections from a general women's empowerment point of view. How important is it for young readers to be women? How important is it that women continue to invest in and think about books and publishing and getting involved in a sector like ours?
Okay.
Yes. Yes, I think it's on.
Okay. You can
Yes, I can hear you.
I cannot hear it.
No.
Hello, hello, hello. Okay.
Now it is.
Hello, hello. Okay. Thank you very much. No, thank you. I'm completely inspired by listening to you. And as I'm listening to you, everything that we advocate for makes sense or comes into sense making, because here we have all the elements that I feel that we are advocating for. We're advocating for having platforms that where opportunities both for publishers but for expanding principles of gender equality are put into place. For example, what we were discussing with the women's empowerment principles, that is promoting working places where there's more opportunities for women, where they can become managers, so where they can become board members and the value of diversity, where they can become entrepreneurs, where they can lead the publishing, and you can shape also the kind of discourse and narratives that are in society that are not necessarily the male perspectives. And so we see this promoting this as very important. And then from the side of the women readers, of course, we want to promote that, and especially that they have access to the diversity of ideas. That's why everything connects with each other. No? Like what you were saying is, what are the narratives and the stories that are being placed in the world? This is very important because girls are reading, and if they don't find role models, they will be affected by that. So I think it's the two sides of the coin. On one hand, of course, we're promoting the empowerment of girls and women are readers and participating actively in book clubs. But in the other side is creating an ecosystem, an environment where women can thrive. Because just being in this panel, you see the amazing potential, what happens when women participate, no? Fully in any sector, especially in the sector that is the publishing sector. Thanks.
Rachel, I would like to say something because I think related to gender equality, I think it must be a must in all sectors, in all industry. But I think in this case, publishing is not just another industry. It's where ideas are born and where identities are shaped, and also the culture is preserved in the whole industry. So our responsibility goes beyond that, because we are educating and we are leading and we have to be the inspiration, but the gender equality everywhere, of course, but in publishing, I think means something else for the whole society, because also it means that we are building, we are working for the world that we want to have and the world that we want to build. So for me, it's very important, and it's not just a professional duty, it's a personal conviction that we have to do.
And I think it's kind of interesting to think of women not just as women, right? Women have different roles. We're both young, we're old, we're different cultures, we come from different backgrounds. And I wonder, maybe, Kwanzaa, you're female, you're young, incredibly beautiful. How does the intersectionality sort of play, do you feel, of women in the industry? What kind of some of the challenges and maybe some of the opportunities that leads to?
I just want to say, first of all, that for me, fighting for women's rights, it's kind of part of fighting for democracy. Because I think that these two things are, of course, very much linked to each other. Because if I speak from the perspective of my country, for example, I'm coming from Georgia. It used to be the part of the Soviet Union, so we used to live in dictatorship. And you know, when we have a backslide of democracy, the first who are attacked, to my impression, it's the women. Because this is how autocracy works in the world. And this is how it worked in our case as well. Because I remember very well, there is a very, very good Georgian male writer. And I think in the beginning of 20s, when we still had the first years of independence, he told me the story that he traveled somewhere in USA at the university. He met the students there, and they were asking about Georgian literature. And he said that I talked about Georgian literature. I mentioned the names from the 20th century literature, from the end of 20th century, and then they gave me the question, do women write in Georgia? And I realized that I only mentioned males. And why it happened? In Soviet times, you know, female writers, they were just hidden because there was no life condition for them to permit yourself, you know, to be inspired by something, to take a lot of time to sit just and write something, because you have so many responsibilities in life. And it was like that. Like family responsibilities were not for males, it was just for females, mostly. Probably there were some good cases as well, but that was a big exception. So that's why these females, probably so many talented people, were lost for our literature and for our history. And when this changed and we gained our independence, I mean, step by step, this also, the female representation started also to be changed in our country. And, you know, when we were the guest of honor at Frankfurt Book Fair in 2018, all the leaders were women in our industry. And once I remember I was interviewed by some foreign media, and the title of the article was The Paradise of Gender Equality, the publishing paradise of gender equality in Georgia. Because at that time I was the president of the local Georgian association, and when I looked at the numbers, it was like half-half our members, female and male leaders, really leaders, and not only the like employees of the publishing house. Because we gave the opportunity, I mean, to females to have a normal life, not the life what male were expecting for us. But when we had an economic independence, this gained that we said that, yes, we can do this. We are capable to do this, and we can even find time for doing such kind of things. And it was so, I don't know, I was really surprised when I started to think about those things happening, how it happened that we have such really interesting equality. It doesn't happen, of course, in any segment, any profession, but publishing, because I think that culture and art and literature, if there is no equality, if there is no freedom for people, this is not real. It's very artistic. So somehow it happened that the stage was open for everyone. And we as a publishers also tried to do our best to encourage more writers because, you know, we publish the books about gender issues, but if in our practical work we don't show how devoted we are to those subjects, our work is also not real. So we need to practically prove that what we publish, we really understand what we publish. And when we do translations and talk about so many problems in different parts of the world and this not having this gender equality in so many parts of the world, and we want to sell those books, how we ourselves in our companies, in our publishing house, in our environment, really understand that we are also responsible to achieve those changes in the society. So for me, I don't think that I had a lot of troubles being a female leader because in Georgia we have very, very strong women, I should say, and now when we have a very difficult political situations and a lot of protests, female activists are the strongest power there. So this is how it happened. I don't know, it was kind of women's revolution, kind of what happened in Georgia in very short time. But there was a problem because I was a young leader, because I became a president of the local association when I was, I think, 27 or 28. And differences in generations, and you can imagine generation coming from Soviet times and then the new generation, it was quite difficult. But it's possible, you know, to work. It was tough times, but when you overcome this and you find this energy in yourself, then everything is happening and everything is possible. So one short thing, what I want to say is that first of all, we should all find the strength and this belief in ourselves. No one will do it for us. We should do that. And we should realize that in every room, there is no room where there is no place for women. In every room, there is place for us, but we have to believe in ourselves first of all. Thank you.
And so I think we can take away, it's difficult, but it's not impossible, right? So everything has to be possible. And Barbara, I mean, as an entrepreneur, someone who established your own publishing house, I mean, how are you looking at the next generation? How are you thinking about it in your organization about women empowerment?
Well, it's a topic that does get me thinking quite a lot. And I have it on different levels. Of course, I have a fabulous team. And there were times when I said, if at equal qualifications, let's take a man, because we have so many women in my team. And they're brilliant women, and they're all leaders, and we're all, you know, carrying our own responsibilities, and we're very flexible. So, you know, if you have to make room for your kids, if you have to make room for caring for friends or elderly or whatever, we're trying to accommodate that. So that's one thing that all human beings should be doing, make room for us, all of us, being human and not, you know, being people in the workplace and being people in the family. We all need to step up, and that goes for men just as well as for women. And, you know, why do we have to actually emphasize that as women we can do it? Why is that necessary? Because of course we can. I mean, there's no intellectual difference. There's no difference in intelligence. There's no difference in competencies in a lot of places. Maybe there's some things, some book crates that the guys can lift more easily. Okay, I'll take 2 women and they can still do the job, right? So why do we have to actually emphasize it, and why do we have to empower each other? And we do have to do that. And we do need networks to empower each other and to show each other what we can do, because, again, there's these expectations. And these expectations go for ourselves in our own roles. They go for others as we see them and they see us. And that's, you know, male, female, and we all sort of mirror what we expect of each other. So what we need to expect of our male team members is to step up and, take their time off to look after the kids. Don't look at them strangely when they have to take a kid to kindergarten or, do any of those chores. And make room for that. Make home office available to all people who need it to look after each other. So creating a workspace where there's a culture of being humane, a culture of caring for each other, and maybe even making room for social responsibilities that people can also step up and fill in is another thing that we can do. But, I only have a small company. We're only a team of 20, and we still make do, and we can still balance all these different roles that all of us have. Now, there's one more thing that I want to also add, because I'm an academic publisher. I'm in the social sciences and humanities. Now, this is a sort of female field, so it's fine that I'm there. There's still loads of male publishers. There's still loads of places where I'm 60, and I'm the first woman in some of these roles. And I think, my God, when I was 20, I expected to be the first woman here or there. But in my 60s, come on, guys, that can't be true. But what we're also doing is we're publishing gender studies. And when I first set up my company, we have 5 different academic disciplines that we serve, and gender studies is one of them. So I talked to this professor I used to work with at my father's company. He's a political scientist. So I went to him and said, no, how about publishing with me? I set up my own company. Do you want to come? And he said, this female publishing house? Oh, okay. Now, this could be a compliment, right? It wasn't meant as a compliment. So what I'm very wary of is we do gender studies, and we're very particularly looking at male authors to also publish in gender studies. And we're doing very, very, very conservative, administrative stuff in political science. So we have the entire field. We have very male, conservative sort of disciplines with young females in it as well. And we have gender studies. And I think, to keep the balance is to make this one discipline visible and look after it and, care for it. And on the other hand, make sure that we are taking seriously by dogs and seriously by the entire scientific community by catering to the other fields as well. So to keep a balance and to keep an open mind there, to me, is very important.
And I think you emphasize that this is an active choice. This is not something that's going to happen organically by itself. It's something that we have to continue to choose. Marta, CEO, you're in the boardroom. What active choices do you feel really have empowered women in your perspective?
Well, I think that in our case, or in my case, as I said, as Barbara said, it's about a balance, and I am not talking about quotas at the end. It's talking about people that they are, of course, they are all professional, but there is an important difference in the leadership, how we understand leadership from women or from men. I think that there has been just one perspective for a long time. So now what I think is that women leadership or women in a strategic position, because it's not just achieving the top position. The way that we can influence is from many different ways. But having these women in this position, we are talking about a more inclusive and more human and a different leadership that today are very essential qualities for leadership. And it's, of course, it's necessary to put some solutions and to have a systemic approach for this situation that comes maybe from the past. And you have to measure what is the situation within the company in terms of gender equality, in terms of promotions, in terms of hiring process. Everything has to be valued, has to be assessed, and also it's important to track and to adjust with the different measures. But at the end, the company reflects the diversity of the society and also the diversity of the readership. Because in general, we are more women in publishing, but also we are, at least in Spain, more women reading. So that's the reason with this balance and with this a different leadership, because for me it's very important to point out that it doesn't mean to have just a domination leadership. It's a different way, more constructive or collaborative. And as again, I think this is done by example and by action.
Perfect. And I think maybe we could have one final word. Maybe you could think ahead to 2030. It's an important time. 2030 is only 5 years away, but it also means that it's 35 years after the Beijing Declaration. 2030 is also the time when we're supposed to realize SDG number 5, which is gender equality. And I wondered, what would be your one thing you would hope publishing would have achieved by 2030? So maybe I start with Eliza, because you have the perspective from the UN.
Hello, yes. Well, it's not my sector of expertise, but I would like to see a sector that is vibrant and that is diverse, really, truly diverse, represents the variety. We were talking about society that represents women in all roles. It represents women in all the diversity. So let's not put women in one group only, no? Let's think about intersectionality. Let's think about minorities, integrating minorities everywhere. And it shows about a dialogue in society that includes everybody, you know, women and men in all their diversity, with a lot of respect for voices, authenticity, and empowerment for all. So,
respect and dignity, I like it.
Yeah.
Kwanzaa.
Thank you.
Yes, it's working. Well, difficult question. I have a lot of hopes and wishes, but of course we don't know what we can achieve, but I'm sure that I will do, and we all will do our best. Because, you know, when I became the president, I really felt that this is the moment when I have to really do at least something, maybe tiny, but important, to show that it's not only about myself to achieve something in the life, but it's about caring about of others. Because without that, you are so boring, so not interesting person if you just care about your success. And as a female, of course, my first goal is that I want to see in the world where I live this gender equality. I want to see women, females, supporting females, because sometimes we lack this as well. And this is so much important. We see that in the families as well, in like our everyday life, but we see it at the offices and everywhere. And this is the most important, because if we start supporting each other in any job, when we join forces, we are powerful, of course. But I also don't want to see ourselves without men, of course. And in this work, I want to see that we all fight for these values, and where we realize that without each other, without our bright ideas shared among each other, there is no normal and a world in which we want to peacefully live and be happy there. So what I see from IPA perspective, I think that we agree on those values already. And this gives me a hope that the statistics I mentioned in the beginning might be changed much more easily than it could happen before in last century, when we had just male presidents. Because now I see so many bright people and bright men as well, of course, around us, with whom we share these values and the thoughts about our future. So this gives me a lot of hope that this is possible, and we should do it only by joining our forces to have a better world. And nowadays, we need it a lot, I think.
Perfect. Empowerment and equity and bringing men into the conversation. Barbara, what's your hope?
Picking up from Gwanza when you said gender equality is a prerequisite to democracy. I want to see my country, the entire EU, and if it's up to me, why not the entire world, become gender equal, why not within 5 years, and have well-established democracies with people regardless of gender, taking on responsibility so, that we all look at each other and work with each other in the plurality that's there. Nothing more.
Nothing more, nothing more. Marta, what's your thoughts?
Well, as I said, for me, publishing has the power to shape how the world thinks and dreams. So let's use this power to build the future where gender equality will not be an aspiration, but the foundation of creativity, innovation, and cultural progress. It will be the best for the world, for me.
And the final word goes to Nazlu.
Thank you. Well, we have the power to change the story, literally. So we should be more aware of that, in my opinion. For example, I'm an editor. I work with male writers, and I've been struggling for years and years with the women's side characters, or they are in the novel just because they're beautiful, because they have beautiful eyes. No, we're more than that. So as an editor, I can make that effect on my male writers and on my women writers. And I am the one who chooses books to be published. So I chose Hong Kong, vegetarian, because in the story, as you all know, the woman is changing the whole world by using her own body. And this is the message I want to give to my Turkish readers. So that's why I chose that book. In a publishing world that English is so dominant, I'm choosing writers from India, Indonesia, Germany, Croatia. So we have the power to change our story, our fate, publishing's fate. We should be more aware of that and support each other. As I said, women's song.
So I think we can hear the passion. We've outlined the future, and we have a target, 2030. And I heard the big ambition that, gender equality, democracy, peace, respect, dignity. We've got a tall order to try and achieve. I'd like you to join me in thanking my wonderful panelists and their passion. And I hope that this conversation continues. Thank you so much.
Thank you.